Welcome to the Big Texas Podcast, presented by Texas Young Republicans. I am your host, Jordan Overturf, bringing to you episode 2 of the Big Texas Podcast, and this one is a very special one. We have a very special guest on, but first, if winning in 2020 is your resolution for the new year, here's what I'm going to need you to do. You need to pull out your phone, your tablet, your laptop. I want you to go to victory.texasyr.gop. Again, that is victory.texasyr.gop. This is our custom app that we have developed for the 2020 cycle to log all of our volunteer activities. If you're out registering voters, if you are block walking for candidates, phone banking, anything that you are doing to get engaged in 2020, this is where you are going to log that information. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, we have teamed up with Texans for Greg Abbott to give out a little bit of a prize for the leaders every quarter. The leading chapters of every quarter will be given a very special happy hour event sponsored by Texans for Greg Abbott. All right, now, Bexar County YRs are at the top of the list. They are getting out there and getting after it, and they are definitely in the running with very little competition to be able to bring home this first happy hour event. So if you want to do that for your chapter, if your chapter just wants the bragging rights, if you got important races, this is a great way to get involved. Again, go to victory.texasyr.gop, click the register link, put all your info in, get signed up today. Now, my guest today for episode 2, his name is Jaco Booyens. And if you don't know Jaco, he is a very interesting person. Born in South Africa, his younger sister was trafficked for human sex trafficking, and it has sparked off a mission in his life that has led him to start a podcast. He's been on interviews with Mark Levin, Fox News. I mean, if you haven't seen Jaco now, after this interview, I believe you're going to want to dive deeper, just like I did right before getting to sit down with him. So we're so grateful for him to talk to us about this issue. Human sex trafficking is a scourge on our society. It's a scourge the world over. But one of the things I wanted to talk to Jaco about today is what can we be doing right now? You know, we don't want to sit around and wait for policy to change. We don't want to wait for, lawmakers to get involved, for the last moment for police to get involved. We want to be proactive. So that's a big part of the conversation today is what can we be doing individually in our homes with our family members to make sure that young Texans in the future are not victims of human sex trafficking. This isn't just a border issue. This is an issue that's going on in public schools via the internet. There's so many ways for predators to influence our children that, you know, it's scary. Jaco talks about it. He goes on stings with the FBI and CIA, and really he just opened my eyes about how quickly a child can come under the influence of one of these predators. So I think you are going to find this podcast very engaging. Again, we're very grateful to Jaco for joining us before the new year. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Jaco Booyens. So, Jaco, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us about this issue. You know, human trafficking is a problem worldwide, for sure. But here in Texas, with our relation to the border, it seems like we see a lot more of that kind of traffic. You know, from your perspective, where is the starting point on this issue? Where do we go?
Yeah, look, and I first thank you for having a real conversation about something that really matters. And look, these things always get slanted politically. This is a bipartisan issue. This is not something you can tag with a political party. This really is every single American household should be having this conversation because it's about children and it's about our future. But it bleeds into the border and immigration. and sanctuary cities and all these kind of things. You can't help it does, right? So firstly, it's an epidemic, and it's been ignored for millennia because it's sex. The two things that are in every family, I always say, it's not religion, it's not necessarily even work, it's money and sex. Those are the two things that are prevalent in every single household, and so should be conversation. So when we look at the state of the affairs in the United States for this, if you want to trace this all the way back to its root, honestly, in its root, in its core, it has to do with the introduction of sex to a young man or a young woman. When that happens, that's the core issue. So we got to go back. Today, the average introduction age is 8.
So this is about a conversation that like families need to start having at a pretty, what are you saying, young age? Is this
Yeah, look, when I tell you that the average American boy is introduced to the concept of sex, right, at age 8. Think about that for 1 second. And now you have to, let's have a real conversation here. You have to start talking about brain chemistry. Up until age 8, a child only thinks with the right brain. It's all emotion. It's all emotion, right? There's no consciousness. There's no, cause and response, reaction, consequence. It's all emotion. This is why 3-year-olds throw tantrums. So now think strategically. If you were on the bad side of the ledger, if you're a bad guy, the porn industry, right? When would you want to create your future consumer, your future customer?
Before that age.
At an age where that child's not able to, so this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
So boys are normally introduced to the concept of sex through porn.
Okay.
At age 8. Now, unfortunately, some boys are abused before then, and then girls, of course, as well. But now you're starting to spin the cycle. Because if you can get a boy at age 8 to have a thwarted perspective of sex, love, the purpose of women, it's done. He's going to objectify women. He's not going to understand what women are really for. He's definitely going to become self-serving because porn, once hooked, is vicious. So if you ask me, the root issue of it all, I'd say it's a culture embracing immorality, number one. Because once you embrace immorality, then you allow these things to enter your home and you don't block them. You normalize them. You desensitize it. That's what our society's been doing. Do you know that there's not been a society in history, not one, that embraced sexual immorality that survived? Not one, ever. We let the genie out the bottle in the 60s. It takes 3 generations from when a culture says we're going to be sexually immoral. We're going to normalize it and embrace it. It takes 3 generations and the culture dies. We made that decision in the 60s with the sexual revolution.
So at this point,
we're paying for it now.
Are we, are we a bridge too far? Or
no, we can turn it, but it's going to take a very proactive conversation back in the home. There was a time here where we could say, kids, go to school and you're going to learn sex ed. Or here's a book. You can, any woman you meet today, ask her, if she's older than 25 years old, ask her who had the conversation with her when she went through puberty. And she's probably going to tell you her parents gave her a book. It wasn't a conversation. 90% of the time. The boys, it's a book. Here's a book, read the book.
Was that your experience? I mean, and
I didn't have a father.
Okay. Well, and for people,
father, and so yeah, it was like, here's a book. But I was raised in the 80s and the 90s, right? Now today, let me tell you what the book is today. The book today is called CSE, Comprehensive Sex Ed, that's taught in 29 states, public school in the United States. And that book is for 10-year-olds. And that book literally asks a 10-year-old, does anal sex hurt? That boy hasn't even thought of the concept of sex. And you're planting seeds, leading them down a path, normalizing behavior. Then it explains how to perform it. It explains how to give consent to sex. Teaching it.
Is this similar to what has just happened in Austin ISD a few months ago, that they were rolling out this new,
CSE? That's the exact curriculum.
Okay, so
Texas is now embracing it.
Well, portions of it,
portions of Texas.
Yeah, but that's how it starts.
In the public school system, but that's how it starts. When you open the door to this stuff, and I'm telling you, and this is why people get so mad when I say this, child sexual abuse in our country, and then child sex trafficking in our country is aided and abetted. It allows to exist. It's allowed to exist, right? It's not, come on. When we get around a table together with all the real influencers in the country and say, children will not be sexually abused in our country, right? You can't ultimately completely stop it because some random guy can just go abuse a child, but there's no consequence.
Well, and we're about a month or so away from what is the biggest sporting event in this country, and the Super Bowl every year. Human sex trafficking surrounds this conversation. There are stings that go on to bust these organizations. People, flying in from all over the world. With cases, you hate to bring it up, but cases like Robert Kraft, who obviously tied to the Super Bowl.
You saw yesterday new charges, right?
Yeah.
New charges came out, and we should probe. But I'll tell you this. There's about 60 names that entered, Jupiter, the players, basketball, baseball, football, who is on camera as well, whose names didn't come out. And so Robert's being tapped here because he's a big name, and the case needs to go on. It can't just be swept under the rug. But there's so many more. I mean, you got 40 names sealed on the Jeffrey Epstein case. I've seen all the names on the list. You got 40 names sealed by a corrupt backroom deal by a judge, a female judge in New York, with a mayor that's as corrupt as anything. This is why I'm telling you, they allow it to happen because who's involved? Because our core problem in our country is this. We are normalizing sexual immorality. And can I just, if I may, break it down systematically for you? If you're going to break America, you're never going to break America with military action. No country would ever have the kahunas to even try. You break it from within. It's a Trojan horse. You break it morally. That's how you break this country. And you move this country towards a one world order or subordinates, or government has to be so big because people are so broken to come snatch you and save you, right? So this is how you do it. You take prayer out of school, check. Yep. Systematically. It's a long play, right? Then you ask the question. You just ask the question, what is a family? So they did. Yeah. Can we redefine family? So they did. Then they asked the question about, okay, what is marriage? Redefined marriage. Check. Then they moved to what? How many genders are there? Here comes the gender argument. Yeah. Are you a man? Are you a, now they're asking 5-year boys, do you want to be a boy or a girl? It's normalizing immorality. And so they go. So if I put it on a whiteboard for you, you'll go, this is a game plan. Yeah. It is a long play game plan. Then they just go check. Now I've seen a document drafted. It's not a bill yet. It's waiting for a sponsor in either the Senate or the House. And it's going to be a bill if we don't stop it. And the bill proposes that pedophilia is a sexual orientation. No, you understand? But so you've seen the draft, or is that an actual bill that's been filed? No, it's not a bill that's filed yet because it doesn't have a sponsor, but there's 200,000 signatures behind this document. Who's supporting this? All of California. It was started in Portland, Oregon, came down to California, and they're going to push it. Now, is there a specific organization, though, that's pushing this that we can, highlight and get some folks? It's funded by Planned Parenthood. Wow. So is CSE. The whole CSE curriculum is funded by Planned Parenthood. That I'm not at all surprised by. But you have to understand, you couldn't 10 years ago just jump to pedophilia as a sexual orientation. You couldn't go there. You first had to go and say, well, there's not just two genders. They have rights. And so you move. The other document I saw is lowering the minimum age, asking to lower the minimum age consent to 10. Now remember, if we're going to go, you and I are going to go negotiate over buying a car today, and you're the seller, you're going to ask the highest price knowing you're not going to get that. I'm going to bring you down. So they'll settle at 12 or 13. They don't expect to get age 10, but they want to get below 16. Well, I would hope there would be a revolt before we got to that point in our society, though. Well, where's the revolt been, though? We're starting it right here, right, Jaco? Right. When I tell you 76,000 kids per day in Texas, either being trafficked or in high trafficking danger, Texas. Yeah. Texas. For 1 second. It's the number one state in the United States, no matter what people say. Economically, politically, we've got the best laws to fight child trafficking in the state. And that's the number. Houston, number one city in the world.
Yeah.
It's a Texas city.
Yep.
Not Thailand or Bangkok or Honduras. So where's the revolt? That's my question is, there's so many people involved because the tentacles is not just, well, have you abused a child lately? Well, no, I haven't. So I'm not part of the problem. No, if you're engaging in porn at any level, this is a harsh statement, but it's true. If you're engaging in porn at any level, you are feeding the beast. You're creating demand.
Yeah.
Right? We're in a business office here. Supply meets demand, not the other way around. What have we been fighting for the last 2 decades in this country? Supply.
Yeah. Well,
nobody touches demand.
And to that end, I know that there has been proposals, certainly in the Texas legislature, to identify pornography as a public health crisis. So if we're starting there around the dinner table in our families, what's the next step then? Where do we go from there within the community? Is it to elected officials? Do we form, organizations where we can have these conversations? Where do we go from here?
I'll tell you, and this is probably, in my opinion, the fastest quick fix for a lot of our social issues in this country. We have to take our schools back. That's where it's at. And you can win that battle. It's hard to win in Washington. I go and talk to Congress. I go, it's the head of the giant's always hard to get to. But man, if you cut him at the ankles, it's going to come down. And the ankles is hyper local. Make it hyper local in your home. Make sure that your children has never been touched, and if they have, get them help. Restore the image. Porn out of the house. Cannot engage. Restore the value of women. What are women for? Build young men that are strong, that want to have strong women in their lives, because a strong woman can handle a strong man. It's weak women that don't want strong men.
Yeah.
It's weak women that want to emasculate men. It's not strong women. A strong woman goes, listen, I got to run 100 miles an hour. I can't carry dead weight.
Yeah.
You better step up, buddy.
Yeah.
Come on. Strong. We don't have enough strong women because we broke them. So much so that women are self-objectifying. Thank you, Nicki Minaj. Thank you, Cardi B. Thank you, Beyonce.
Yeah.
They're self-objectifying because they bought the lie that this is how I get love. Now they're telling the 12-year-old version of Beyonce, well, this is how guys are going to love you. It's a cycle, right? So in the home start, and then take the school back. It only takes, there's normally between 5 and 7 board seats on a school board.
Yeah.
Just show up and take over the board. Take 3 seats. Take 3 seats and start pushing rubbish out of your kids' school. Hyper local. Don't worry about Washington.
Well, and that's a good point to bring up, because in this election cycle, there has been discussion about, even at the State Board of Education level, the loss of some tenured servants there who are getting out of the fight, and it is opening those opportunities up. Now, unfortunately, all the candidates have filed for there, and we've got some good folks on that board, but we do need more people getting involved at the state and local level, because
Absolutely.
That does happen on the State Board of Education, where curriculum standards come up, and, it's been talked about time and time again that, as Texas goes, so does the rest of the country in terms of textbooks and the volume of what we purchase in this state. With Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Kraft, we see these bigger issues, but I want to bring up another story that came up in January of this year. It was actually at a small Texas school where there was a teacher who was convicted of trying to take one of her, I believe is an 8th grade student, to Morocco to traffic for sex. And I think that drives home the point that this is not just a big city issue, and vigilance has to be, like you said, hyper local. Every single family needs to be stepping up and to push back against this narrative.
Yeah, look, let's draw a correlation here for people that's a little easier. Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
Water crisis. If you lived in Flint at that time, who did it touch? Everybody. This touches everybody.
Yeah.
It's your child and it's sex. There's a wolf, right, that wants to abuse your child. Now you put rocket fuel on this issue called social media and the internet and communication. And then you get into the real heart of the matter. Boys and girls don't have parents predominantly that are present. They're there, but are they engaged? Are you the one talking to your daughter about sex? Or is it the teacher? Or are they learning online? Or is it a book you gave them? Are you actually parenting? Are you having the conversation, steering it in the right direction? This is not a buck we can pass.
Yeah.
It stops with us as parents, so we got to bring it back into the home and say, hey, it's my kids.
Yeah.
And you're not going to, and I don't care if your kid is a freshman in college, go have the conversation now. Restore, correct.
Yeah.
Recorrect. When I love to shoot, okay? And I was trained as a marksman, right?
Okay.
And you don't have to be off by much to miss the target. We're 5 degrees off. No. A quarter of a degree you're going to miss.
Yeah.
And so let's recorrect, make small corrections, right? To get back on target with our children, because it's our future. Now, earlier I told you we fight supply.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to fight. It's great to say we arrested 50 pimps. It's amazing. But do you understand that it's territorial? It's like a bad cartel leader. You take the head of the cartel out, the guy that's been waiting for him to die for the last 5 years thanks you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You just opened up more business.
Yeah.
for me.
Leadership vacuum.
Come on, leadership vacuum. So at what point are we willing to, as a society, to say, regardless of what the name is that's going to be filled in the blank, you touch a child, I don't care what the name of your Fortune 500 company is, or your status in the community, or if you're the police chief or the school principal, whatever, there's no anonymity for you.
Yeah.
We're not hiding this, and you're getting the book thrown at you because we have the best laws in Texas. They're not executed. So a law that's not actually executed is toilet paper. It means nothing. So we feel good. There was a feel-good movement for about 5 years when 5 years ago, a child, 40 of the 50 states, a child was a prostitute under the law. Then there was this huge avalanche. Rick Perry signed SB 92, Governor Perry, State Bill 92, and he caused an avalanche for good, saying, she's a victim. And in every state, it's like, okay, a victim. Ken Paxton, these guys are the leaders. Hear me. Ann Patrick, Ken Paxton, Abbott, Perry. These guys are Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. These are the leaders in this fight.
Yeah.
But if you don't execute it at the district attorney level, and the judge and the prosecute when it says 30 years to the guy that just abused an 8-year-old, give the guy 30 years.
Yeah.
Put that in the news. Because what that does is it starts introducing consequence. There's no consequence.
Yep.
The buyer, the guy that says, I'll pay to have sex with an 8-year-old, that's the guy. We need to start choking demand. That's how you kill supply.
Yeah.
Choke demand. And so we see cases where we build a case and we hand it over and it gets washed.
Yeah.
The pimp gets arrested. The bottom girls get arrested. Great. Yes, of course we need to arrest a pimp. Yes, we need to go after and rescue all the victims. But you got to stem the tide, but that's ugly because these are financial boosters. They give to political campaigns, and follow the money. I mean, come on, follow the money. We've got universities that champion people that we are investigating.
Yeah.
That are behind sex trafficking rings. And this crime is both very organized and very unorganized. There's at the street level what we used to know, that part of town, the one guy that's objectifying a girl and he's what we thought the pimp was back in the 80s. That's still going on. But now there's this hyper organized cell. Right.
Yeah. Well, and with the age of the internet comes the ability for, these sex traffickers to not only, put their product out there, but also, engage and target on these young kids. It's my understanding you have a little bit of experience in helping train people to recognize the signs of these activities of people trying to recruit young children. I mean, for people who are just trying to watch what's going on in their kids' lives, what are some of the telltale signs that maybe, you need to definitely step up your engagement?
Yeah, look, I've been fighting this crime for 26 years since 1994. My sister was trafficked for 6 years.
Wow.
In 1994. So I've been fighting child sex trafficking since 1994. Okay, we fell on deaf ears in the U.S. for 12 years when we came over here, and I saw it all over Chattanooga and Atlanta, and Interstate 65, Interstate 40. So we have. I mean, this is, we've trained 100 FBI agents this year, so we got a lot of experience on how to profile, because it's a very different profiling technique. Because how do you detect emotional duress?
In a young child who is...
In anybody sexually. I mean, you got women waiting 30 years to talk about a single rape.
Yeah.
What about the child that's sold on average 10 times a day? One of our most recent rescues, the girl was trafficked for 6 years, and then we did the numbers. And we did it live on camera because we're filming a documentary. And we shared with her how many men abused her for the first time she ever heard the number on camera. And she broke. It was over 5,000 men.
And how old?
How do you rehabilitate? She was 14 when she was taken.
5,000 men by the age of 14.
No, from 14.
Okay, from 14.
5,000 men into her mid-20s, right?
Wow.
How do you rehabilitate that? A 90-day program. This is serious.
Yeah.
I can talk to you about the belly of the beast because we're in there. We're in awareness. We're in rescue. We're in restoration. So things to look out for. The reason I want people to know what to look out for is because I want families to understand you do not want to be where we've been with Ilanka, my sister, on the back end of this thing of restoring. It took a decade. There was 3 suicide attempts, program after program after program. Ultimately, it was literally just Ilanka meeting God one-on-one, having real true redemption and restoration internally being made. That's it. There is no other way to do this. This is not Alcohol Anonymous.
Yeah.
Okay. This is layered because they strip this boy or girl, 97% girls, from everything. No self-worth, no image. Don't know what love is. Don't know what sex is for. There's nothing. Can't trust ever again. It's a shell of a person. So because I don't want families to go through that, because that has a 2% success rate.
Wow.
Our rehab success rate with what we consider being successful, rescuing a victim that one day can re-enter society in what we would consider anybody else a normal lifestyle, being able to be a mother and a wife, 2%.
Wow.
Okay, it's disastrous. So
that's devastating. I mean, if we had 2%, come back from anything, there would be.
If I tell you you're going to start a business, but you get 2% success, you don't do the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It is nothing in life. It is devastating, and I can, and also for reason, and we can talk about that. So what do people look out for? And I want to talk about some of that. Think about this one second. People don't change unless something drastic happens to people. It takes a lot for a person to change personality, change your clothing, change your style, seasonal, but who you are. So when a child changes, when I asked this question at ISDs, Irving ISD, Texas, we're training 41 schools at the moment, okay? And we're training at multiple levels. And I say, how often do you guys see children change behavior, like radical change? You'll be surprised. Kindergarten through 7th grade, the teachers go all the time. It's the strangest thing. This kid is an ultra extrovert, and he'll just show up one day, and he just changes his peer group. I go, and you think that's normal? People don't change like that. Something happened.
Yeah.
Am I saying it's sex trafficking? Definitely, probably sexual abuse, or dad's bouncing mom off the wall. Right? Something, death, critical illness, meeting Jesus, salvation. Sex trafficking, abuse, rape, these things change personalities. So when you see a child change personality, not mood and temperament, but really change peer groups.
Yeah.
Go from the loner, the goth kid to the popular kid, right? Start asking questions. That doesn't matter. That doesn't mean it's sex trafficking, but we never ask questions. We just roll with it. Or they did a fantastic job in this country calling everything bullying. Everything's bullying.
Yeah.
Inaccurate. Is bullying real? For sure. Oh, the kid's a bully. Is he a bully, or is he being sexually abused at home by his dad? And this is his only way of crying for help, saying, can somebody see me because I can't say it?
Yeah. So just labeling it bullying and be done with it. Right.
Oh, it done. And he's the bully.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy. He's the guy you don't want to hire when he's 23, 24. I'm like, whoa, time out for 1 second. He may just be a kid, but something happened to that kid.
Yeah.
You know why? Hurt people hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy people don't like hurting people.
Yeah.
This is not how life works. So we're asking the wrong questions at an early age in this country. And we love to label them, oh, he's ADD. Maybe, but can we just ask questions?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a bully. Oh, she's just, I don't know, she just became an introvert. Is she, or does someone come in her room at night?
Mm-hmm. Well, and to the bullying effect, I think so much of our focus is on the victim and repairing the victim status, which is why we're not looking at the bully itself and trying to dig deeper. But I think even to your larger point, the reason why, you get to that 2% level is because we do wait until someone identifies as a victim or outcries before we engage.
Yeah, and unfortunately, look, I'll give you, I was speaking to Congress, and a state senator was running down accolades on what they've done in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And I stood up and I said, that's great. I feel good. I hope you feel good. But let's talk about the one law you made that negates everything else you've done.
Mm-hmm.
There's a law in Indiana that says you cannot prosecute a case unless the victim, the child, under 18, self-identifies as a victim. I have in 25 years not met one.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of them look at themselves as victims.
Yeah.
They're trained not to think by the pimp.
Yeah.
The dad that's abusing his daughter tells her it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
You're a victim. You're doing this for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're going to put you through college.
Well, and there are even more tragic circumstances where a child is too young to, they can't even say their own name and they're being abused at some level. And so that seems like a serious fault in this whole system.
And now it becomes the norm.
Yeah.
Do you know how many children, after extensive rehabilitation work, say the following words? I was told everybody does it.
I would imagine it's got to be 99%.
It's a belief system that they ingrain someone with. Because what is the best slave? And by the way, this is slavery.
Yeah.
It's actually more slaves today than ever before in history.
Mm-hmm.
We thought Martin Luther King and these guys abolished slavery. No, not a chance. I'm from South Africa, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Okay? More slaves. What is the best slave in the world?
A compliant one.
A slave that thinks it's free.
Wow.
So what do you do with a slave? You train it that this is normal. You're free. You're doing it for us, baby.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love you. Now it's love. Now the 16-year-old has literally fallen in love with her abuser.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you see Ray Rice and these guys knock his girl unconscious, NFL player, in a hotel lobby on camera. She goes on the witness stand in front of the judge and defends the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because she honestly believes this guy loves her. She honestly believes she can't get better.
Mm-hmm.
She's committed, but she's trained. Does that make sense? Because you can break a human being like you break a horse. It's not hard. I just need to know what makes you feel important and what's your number one insecurity that you would be willing to die for. In my sister's case, what made her feel important was being an artist, a recording artist.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing she would die for was my mom. So they threatened to kill my mom, and they gave her a music career. Done.
Wow.
Done. I can put a bit in your mouth, and I can move you anywhere. Any human being. I give you a 400-pound NFL lineman. When I know what makes you feel important, right, and I can give that to you. This is why we have such a problem in politics. People get in politics, and they give them what they've always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But now you got a bit in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's why they hate the guy that's the current president. They didn't put the bit in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
They can't lead him.
Yeah.
They can't stand it. They can't stand that they didn't make him. Because if I made you, I can break you.
Mm-hmm.
So they make these kids what they want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
At age 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. Why is the average age of girls trafficked in the United States 12? Why not 15?
Mm-hmm.
The world average is 15. Why 12 in the U.S.?
Mm-hmm.
Ask any woman you see today, hey, what happened to your body between 12 and 15? She's going to tell you, I didn't know myself.
Yeah.
Everything changed. hormones. This is emotional. I can't talk to my dad. There's a separation between the girl. Nobody understands me, right? I don't understand. And I start noticing boys. Mm-hmm. And all the girls will tell you. And I noticed the boys my age are stupid. I liked older boys. Mm-hmm. So in comes dude online. Hey, I'm 15. He's 41, 44. Okay, he's a pedophile. He's a predator. And he romances the girl through that difficult season of her life. And he grooms her. You're fishing with dynamite. It's nothing for these guys. It's so easy. And our parents are oblivious. We'd rather have our kids in their phones because they're out of our hair.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that brings us back to, your initial point that we need to be hyper-focused, hyper-local on, and being engaged with our children. I myself have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I do worry about this, even at their young age, and with more and more stories of what's happening in public schools, it's not a knock on our teachers. It's just the reality of what we face now in this country.
Look, I'll knock the teacher. If you're not a teacher that's proactively trying to build healthy young people, you're part of the problem because you're there to direct.
Yeah.
If you're directing college campuses today, it is a disaster. We're paying these people $100,000 a year, $60,000 to $100,000 a year to go corrupt our society. It's a disaster, right? It's an abuse of power.
Well, and even there, they're not protected because, we just saw that at, University of Texas, there was a professor who, was trying to engage with students on a sexual level, got suspended for a semester and is back teaching again,
Because of tenure. This is why I love Liberty University that said, hey, you don't have any tenure here. You can't get tenure. But again, you're talking about Texas. One of our biggest crises in our country today at a higher education level is Oklahoma. They're turning all of their dorm rooms. We're talking about OSU and all these schools.
Yeah.
At board level, at trustee level, they're turning all the dorm rooms into co-ed dorm rooms. You got co-ed showers, co-ed dorm rooms, co-ed living space, rapes going through the roof.
Yeah.
Are you out of your mind? You take a college atmosphere, you take alcohol, you got co-ed. It's insanity.
And we're not even beginning to scratch the surface of any of these issues.
No. So for the mom at home today, if your child changes behavior, like personality behavior, dig in, ask questions, and ask the hard questions. This is the simplest way to get this conversation started. You ask this question: are you safe? That's it. If you think you see someone in public that is being trafficked, don't go be Batman and, because the bad guy is armed, right? Are you safe? It is a disarming question. It's not, are you being trafficked? Are you being raped? Is someone touching you sexually? People will close up, clam up. It's shame. Are you safe? It disarms and they go, I don't feel safe. Why? Ask your 5-year-old, do you feel safe? And this is not about all emotions and feelings. We got to pay attention to, but go have this conversation. Me, you, I've got a 4-year-old and a 5-month-old, right? I ask my 4-year-old frequently, but I'm also training my 4-year-old daughter. We don't use the word sex, but we use the word bad guys. There are bad guys, Arwen. What do you mean that? There are bad guys, and I point them out in film scenarios and in, that are bad guys. Well, what do we do with bad guys? We look out for them. What do we do if we see a bad guy? Pay attention to one of your friends. We tell everybody. Protect them. It is a heightened awareness. Turn the radar on, and your child's going to be safer. Now we start sharing. They're not on social media, of course, but I'm telling them, hey, do you see that there's no pictures of you guys on dad's social media? And I show them. And they go, yeah, why? And I go, because they don't want bad guys to know where you are. Oh, that makes sense. So I said, so when you use social media, don't tell people where you are all the time. Don't tell them how you feel on social media. Come talk to mom or dad, talk to a friend, talk to a real person. But don't get counseling online, teenagers. Our teenagers are vomiting online. You just sit online. We can build a profile here in 45 seconds. And I can show you how we can have a victim within a 5-mile radius. Now, right now. Multiple, right? Pimps are right. Because the kids vomit online. Now the predator is literally just sitting saying, there she is, that one. that one, and I can trace her history, and I can build a case, and I know how to romance her, I know how to talk to her, I know how to bait her. We're at a place now where you don't need a pimp anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The kids self-traffic.
Yeah.
Meaning there's a buyer direct with the supply.
Yeah.
Online.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're so good.
Mm-hmm.
The buyers are now becoming profilers, where the buyer used to have a pimp in the 80s, 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go to somebody, or I have to drive and pick a girl straight off the street.
Yeah.
Now we're getting back to, hey, I can pick a girl straight off the street. I can just engage with a girl directly online.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you a thread I had last week, because we do stings.
Mm-hmm.
We go in as a guy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're 17 years old. Not,
yeah.
right? Go in as a guy, and we start romancing a girl, and within 2.5 minutes, she sends naked pictures of herself. You just need to know what to say.
Yeah.
What to trigger. Looking at her history.
Mm-hmm.
She's looking for affirmation, you know? And it's, you think, it's hard. It's not. And this should scare the daylights out of parents.
Well, and Jaco, I want to thank you for coming on this podcast and talking to us about this. This is exactly why we started this forum. And I wish we could keep going on, but I know you got places to be. You got a lot of projects.
I know it's verbose. Sorry.
No.
There's so much to unpack here, man.
Look, when we get the extended format, I'll have you back on and we'll really dig in. We'll roll our sleeves up and we'll start, engaging on what we can do at the broader level, at the legislative level. I certainly would like you to come back before the next legislative session so we can put that message out to legislators.
We have to fight there, but I think a takeaway from this talk right now to parents is just get involved.
Yeah.
You go have the conversation, not the school, not their job.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jaco, thank you so much. Hey, if people want to learn more about you or find out about things you got going on, the films and projects you've got going on with your wife, I listen to your podcast now. I'm a big fan. Give everyone who's listening now all those details.
Yeah, look, just social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Booyens Jaco or at Jaco Booyens, you can find it. And then, we're launching a new XM radio show. It's a live show February 13th.
Excellent.
We'll put all that out there. And then, we're always producing content, feature films like the film 8 Days. Go watch the film 8 Days. That's something parents could do. Watch the feature film 8 Days. If your child's 13 and over, and it's going to do 90% of the work for you, and then go have a conversation.
And that's available at Jaco Booyens Ministries.com.
Yep, absolutely. They can watch it free on Tubi. They can get it on Netflix. They can get it on Amazon Prime. Yeah, or to order it directly from us or stream it.
Excellent. Well, we'll be sure and share it out. Again, Jaco, thank you so much for your time. Have yourself a good one.
God bless.
I mean, wow, right? Like, Jaco really puts it into perspective for you. The thing that I really liked about our conversation is that when I asked him what we can do, it wasn't, policy based. It wasn't, running to the authorities. It was about the communities getting involved, about the families being zeroed in at the local level. As he said, hyper local focus on what is happening in our families. It's great advice. It's something that I certainly took to heart. I started having conversations with my children to just make sure that they feel comfortable, they feel safe, in their classrooms, at home, wherever they are. I just want to, encourage you, if you have a young family, or if you are, you're an aunt and uncle, you got little nieces and nephews running around, make sure you reach out to them, have a conversation with them to make sure that they feel safe. That was the greatest piece of advice that he gave, is even when approaching a stranger, that question of, are you safe, really is disarming. So I hope you continue this conversation at home, continue it with coworkers or friends within your chapters. Again, human sex trafficking is a scourge, and we need to be talking about it more. Thank you again to Jaco Booyens for joining us. You can find his website at jacoboyensministries.com. You can find him on Twitter, Booyens Jaco. Just Google search Jaco Booyens and he's going to come up. His films, his podcast, his serious show that's getting ready to launch. Again, thank you, Jaco, for sitting down with us and talking to us about this important issue. That's it. we're all done for today, but I thank you again for joining us. We got a lot of candidate interviews lined up over the next few weeks, so make sure you're following us on Twitter and Instagram at Big Texas Podcast. Make sure you're following Texas Young Republicans on Facebook for the latest updates, as well as election information as we get ready for the primaries. Till then, friends, we'll see you down the road.